everyone, Miss Puck from Mirror Lake again. Let's jump into the target. Can you read this with me? Ready, go. I will use various, that means different, strategies while reading with Miss Puck today. The different strategies we're going to focus on today are predictions, inferences, and character traits. Don't worry if you don't know what those are or if you forgot what they were. I'll show them to you while we read today. Are you ready? The story today is called Fishing Day by Andrea Davis Pinkney. And before we even get started, you can start making predictions based on the cover. What do you think? How is she feeling? You can also make an inference about how she's feeling. Here's an inference again, is making a good guess based on text evidence and what you already know. So you can infer, does she look happy? Does she look scared? Does she look nervous? Or a bunch of different feelings? And thinking about why and how you know that. I see her head is kind of down. Her hands are, I see she's using a hook, but she looks a little nervous to me. Do you agree? She doesn't really look like she has a smile on her face, and her eyes are kind of looking to the side, like she's suspicious or worried about something. So I'm wondering what this book's going to be about already. All right, let's get started. When Saturday comes, Mama and I wake long before the sun so we can catch the fish right when they wake. Mama, you up? I call. But before Mama even answers, I smell hominy cooking in the kitchen. Mama leans in the doorway of my bedroom. I've been up, she says, making sure we got us a hot breakfast. I pull on my overalls and buckle them fast before the cold has a chance to reach my bones. In the kitchen, Mama says, eat good now, Reenie. We've got a long fishing day ahead. Now, even if you don't have a fishing background, I know I don't, we can still take a look at what the author and illustrator did for this book. So we have some knowledge on some fishing. Mama and me, we sure love fishing. We've got a special fishing place along the north bank of a wide, muddy stream folks around here called Jim Crow River. Mama baits each of her hooks with a kernel of corn from her sack, then casts the rest into the water. We watch the corn pellets float just below the water's surface. We wait for the carp to come along and nibble the tiny jewels of food. Now, if you're not sure what a carp is, let's use some context clues. We wait for the blank to come along and nibble the tiny jewels of food. What do you think a carp is? I think a carp is some type of fish. Do you agree? Is that what you thought too? So let's plug that in. We wait for the fish to come along and nibble the tiny jewels of food because we know they're going fishing. Today, the carp or fish aren't taking up our bait. Not even a nibble, I say. Patience, Reenie, Mama says softly. Fish can be finicky at the start. Suddenly, a little stone skips across the water. Leaves crunch up behind us. It's Mr. Billy Troop and his boy Pigeon. Pigeon's not his real true name. His real name is Peter. I call him Pigeon because when he and his daddy come to fish, Pigeon's doing everything but sitting still. He's always flitting somewhere, just like an up-jumpy bird. Mr. Troop's got his bucket of bait and 2 fishing rods. Pigeon races off towards the river's edge, skipping another stone, messing up the water's calm. I'm going to pause and make an inference on how Reenie's feeling right now. That's the girl here. She kind of looks annoyed and she sounds annoyed, saying, he's so loud. I call him Pigeon because he never stands still. And if you've seen those pigeon birds, they're always kind of walking and flying around. Mama shakes her head. That boy's suffering from want, she says. It's a shame, too, because all of us, even the fish, suffer from the flurry he makes. A shame, I say. So they're both thinking, the fish are getting scared from the movements he's making. So no one's benefiting from it. Mama's told me that Pigeon and his daddy have it harder than most folks. She says they don't fish just for the love of it. They need to fish so they can eat. In all the time we've been fishing alongside Pigeon and his daddy, we've never said a word to them, and they've never said a word to us. Not a word. Today's no different. At first, the troops pretend they don't see us, but when I look in Pigeon's direction, he holds on with his eyes, like he wishes he could speak to me. Watch the water, Reenie, Mama says, her face getting tight. Mr. Troop puts a hand on Pigeon's back. Keep with this side of things, he says, all firm. That's when Mama tells me how the river got its nickname. Jim Crow is the law of the land, she explains. The law that says black people have a place, white people have a place, and the two should steer clear of each other. But Mama, I say, rivers are for everybody. Mama tries to help me understand. That's true in nature's eyes, Reenie, but folks who fish have their own ideas. We and white folks have kept our distance here for as long as memory serves. And again, that's okay if you agree or disagree with the statements being made here. This is just a story about, that's another evidence of segregation. Mr. Troop and Pigeon set down their gear on the riverbank not far from Mama and me. Their voices pierce the dawn. Come away from the water, son, Mr. Troop calls. You'll spook the fish with all that commotion. With all that flitting, I say quietly, so only Mama can hear. Mr. Troop baits his hooks with night crawlers. Those are big worms. He and Pigeon never catch any fish with those crawlers. Someone needs to tell them that the crawlers are too scrawny this time of year. That carp like corn and bread balls best. There's a chilly bite to the air. Mr. Troop has got his cap pulled down low over his eyes. Pigeon singing Boggle Mo, a ditty that I bet a whole $1 makes a carp want to plug their ears. Can you make an inference on Reenie right now? Let's think. I infer Reenie is feeling, what do you think? Does she look excited that he's there or happy? I'm disagreeing with that. She sounds annoyed. And what's our evidence? Look at her face. Again, this is what you know, your background knowledge, and from the text here. And when she's saying that the fish want to really plug their ears, they can't really do that. But she's thinking, oh man, his voice is not great, and she kind of wishes he'd just be quiet. Mama tosses another handful of corn into the water. Still, not even a nip. I secure my pole between my elbow and my hip bone and reach into my pocket to pull out my gloves. I've only got one glove when my line jerks up, then forward. I don't waste time with my second glove. I struggle with the line, then cut it some slack. Finally, I reel in the line. Sure enough, I've hooked a nice big carp. A keeper, Mama says. She's beautiful, Reenie, beautiful. After we've linked our first catch to the carry chain, Mama's line starts to dance. She's got a feisty one, another keeper, so Mama caught one too. We link her catch with mine and bait our hooks again. This time I toss the corn kernels, and I can see the carp coming to greet them. The news is out that we got corn, Mama says. The carp are telling all their friends, she laughs. So now they're on a roll catching all the fish. Pigeon and Mr. Troop haven't caught a thing. When Mr. Troop adjusts the grip on his pole, his reel breaks. He looks like he's trying hard to keep his eyes on fixing his pole, but I see him sneaking glances at Mama and me. And I'm wondering, inferring what he's feeling. Maybe a little jealous. He's noticing, oh, they caught at least 2, and now I haven't caught any. They always get a catch, I hear Pigeon whine. Hush up, boy, Mr. Troop says, and mind your own business. He stomps off to where he's parked on the other side of the hill. We just need some pliers from the truck is all. Pigeon sets down his pole next to his daddy's and starts sending little stones into the river again. But he's not skipping the stones now. He is flinging them. That means like throwing them. He blows into his cupped hands to keep them warm. He sniffs hard like he's trying to hold something in. Then he's back to chucking stones. And I'm wondering, when someone's sniffing and acting like they're trying to keep something in, what do you think they're trying to keep in? Maybe some tears? Because does he look super happy right now? I would disagree. He looks kind of upset and jealous and not very happy. But this time, he's chucking stones towards Mama and me. The first one he throws doesn't come close, but the second one nicks me on my knee. I let go of my rod and rub my leg hard. Mama, I wail. Mama hugs me to her, helping me ease the sting that's charging up in me. How's she feeling? She's feeling kind of angry. That boy's hurting, she says gently, her jaw firm, and he can't help but spread his hurt around. Let's just go home, Mama, I snap. Mama shakes her head no. She gathers up our sack of corn and our rods. We go to a place further down down the river. Mama's quiet. My line tugs for the second time that day. I've got another carp, a long one, its yellow belly glistening under the morning sun. Pigeons looking straight at us. How do you infer he's feeling? I infer he's not very happy. Even from where we're fishing, I can see he's working hard not to cry. There's some evidence too. And there's shame on his face. He looks sorry for what he did. Mom and I carefully string my fish onto the carry chain with the others. Then I reach into our sack for a new corn kernel to bait my hook. As soon as I feel my hand curl around those nubby kernels, I know what I've got to do. I gather up the corn sack and start toward Pigeon, sliding Mama a single backward glance. She nods. If you want to pause and make a prediction, remember a prediction is what you think is going to happen next. It's okay if you're right and it's okay if you're wrong, just as long as you have evidence to support that. So remember, if I say, oh, a giant hippopotamus is going to come out and eat all the fish they caught. Does that make sense? No. There's no evidence of a hippo coming, and that's just making something up. So I predict, and what do you think? What's Rini going to do with the kernels? And then why do you say that? So again, you can look at the picture clues and what you already know about the character. So be keeping that in mind. See if your prediction's true. I predict. Ready? When Pigeon sees me coming with our bag of corn, he looks scared and glad all at the same time. I can tell he's not sure how to feel. I can see that his hands are raw from the cold. My name's Rini, I say, giving him the glove from my pocket. Look at that action. She's giving him something. I'm Peter Troop. He turns his eyes toward the hill. There's no sign of his daddy. I pull out a fistful of corn from my sack. Here, I say, offering the kernels to Peter. They'll call up the carp, I tell him. He nods like he already knows, but he won't take the corn. I'm thinking about a character trait of Rini. Remember, a character trait is describing someone on the inside based on their thoughts, actions, and words. And Rini giving up the corn to him and offering a glove, even though, again, remember, they never talked before. They're not friends. And what was he just doing a couple pages ago? What was he throwing? He was throwing rocks at her. And I'm wondering, wow, she is very kind and generous right now. She's being compassionate and empathetic, giving him a glove to keep his hands warm and the corn that will catch the fish. I bait Peter's hook for him. Now all you gotta do is wait and be still, I say, hoping he'll give his stone throwing a rest. I leave my small mound of corn on the grass next to Peter, because remember he didn't take it, and go back to where Mama's still fishing. When I look sidelong down the river, I can see that Peter's scattering the corn into the water in front of him. Then he sits with his rod, just as patient as can be. He's quiet too, quiet and still. Oh, he listened to her advice, and remember he took that corn. She can see him from the corner of her eye. I wonder how he is feeling now. When Mr. Troop comes back, Peter's got a snap tug on his fishing line. Mr. Troop is all giddy. He rushes to help Peter reel in the line. Mama gives a single nod. The corn'll do it every time, she says to me. Bring her in easy now, I whisper, struggling to keep my eyes straight ahead on my own bit of water. When Peter brings in his line, he's got 2 fish, one on his hook and the other one biting the first fish's tail. You can see 2 there. Mr. Troop claps Peter's shoulders. My boy, he says. I can see that Peter's proud. Soon Peter and his daddy pack up their tackle box and head for their truck. I can't see them drive away, but I hear their truck barreling off. I guess Lady Luck smiled on them, Mama says. She smiled double, I say, feeling a little giggle rise up in me. Based on this page, even though Reenie's not on there, the girl, how do you think she's feeling? Do you think she's jealous of him? Why or why not? Kind of thinking about your answer, or if an adult is there, you can talk to them. I disagree. I think she's excited about him catching the fish. She's smiling here. She has a little giggle. The next day, Mom and I are walking home from church when I spot the Troop's truck crossing the north bend of the hill near Jim Crow River. When the truck circles around, it's coming toward Mom and me. Mr. Troop's got his eyes fixed on the road. I look real hard to see Peter, but he's not in the cab next to his daddy. Then the truck grunts ahead. I turn to watch it pass, and I see Peter sitting in the flatbed. He is looking right at me and waving with the glove I gave him, and I wave back. So we've always talked about doing a SWIBS after we're done reading a story. Again, that's somebody in, wanted, but so, as a quick summary of what we've read. But one thing I wanted to show you was that there were multiple problems in this story. Would you agree? So I have here just a couple different options that you can also change the character or the problem as well. And so I just did the problem. So let's take a look at option 1. Can you read that with me? So Reenie at the lake wanted to fish, but Pigeon keeps making noises. So what did she do to solve that problem? She gave him some kernels and tells him to keep quiet, and then he catches some fish too. That was one example. Option 2, let's change the problem. Reenie at the lake wanted to make it so that anyone could fish together, but thinking about the problem, they both ignore each other because it's supposed to be segregated. Remember, blacks and whites were supposed to be separated. So Reenie is brave and makes the first move to talk to Pigeon. Notice that the character stayed the same, and so did the setting, but the wanted and the problem, and then the solution also changes. Remember that the but and so, the problem and solution, always need to go together. A third choice would be, read that with me down here. Reenie at the lake wanted, what did she want to do? She wanted a fish, but what's the problem? Pigeon starts throwing rocks near her. So remember when that happened, that could have been a big problem too, right? So what did she do? She ignores it, and her mama helps her stay calm, then chooses to be the bigger person and helps him catch some fish. So notice that, again, the character, we can also change that to Pigeon or Peter if you wanted, and how that changes the SWIBs as well, because did he want to do the same thing, and did he have the same problem as her? So again, I just wanted to show you, pretty cool that you can change the problem. We want to make the best problem choice, but sometimes there's a lot of options there. Nice job, guys.
Hey everyone, it's me, Mrs. Nelson, back again. Today it's our Thursday lesson, and it's also the last lesson of the week and our last lesson for multiplication and division. So we'll still be doing some third grade math next week, but I'll be recording some lessons and episodes about a new math topic. So since today is our last day for multiplication and division, we're really going to make sure that we feel solid and strong with being fluent solving multiplication and division facts, expressions, and equations. And before we get to our learning target and some practice today, we're going to warm up with another number string like last time. So if you remember, I showed some pictures of dots and asked you to think about how many dots you saw on the cards. We're going to start with that same activity today. So get ready, and here we go. Okay, so are you ready? I'm going to show the dots. You're thinking about how many dots you see and how are you seeing those dots to figure out how many there are. Here we go. Told you it was going to be fast, and we're showing it one more time quickly. Think about how many dots you see on this card. Whew. Okay. Hold your answer in your mind. And now I'll show the card again and actually let you see those dots a little more carefully. And if you said 12 dots, you are absolutely correct. I'm wondering if any of you saw the dots as two groups of 6 dots and thought about it like 6 plus 6, or what are two sixes together. But it's also okay if you thought about it as groups of 3, because I noticed there's columns of 3, or even groups of 2, counting by twos. So anyway, that was our first card. Now I'm going to show the next card. Again, you're just thinking about how many dots you think you see. Quickly. Okay, one more time. How many dots did you see? This was a different card. So hopefully you noticed. This time there are, that's right, 16 dots. If you guessed 16, way to go. I want you to notice how you saw the dots. When I look at the card, I see two groups of 8. So I think, what's 8 plus 8, or 2 8s equal to? And that would equal 16. I also see groups of 4, 4, another 4 here, and then on this side, 2 4s. So I could think about it as 4 groups of 4. And I could, again, count by twos, like on the last card. So either way, any way you thought about it, as long as you thought about 16 dots, you had it right. Great job. Thanks for doing the number string to warm up with me today. Now we'll get to today's learning target. It is that I will use, or you will use, a multiplication fact you know to help you solve unknown facts and expressions in a number string. Let's just quickly talk about that word expression before I read the rest of the learning target. Expression is just the name for a number sentence that does not have an equal sign. So on the screen, I've written 2 times 2. That is an example of an expression. And we can also call, when we see number sentences with other operations, like 1 plus 3, 6 minus 2, 10 divided by 5. These are all examples of expressions because they are part of a number sentence, but they don't have the equal sign or the answer afterward. So today, we're going to look at an expression like 2 times 2, solve it using a strategy, mental math, or any strategy we want, and then we'll look at another expression that is connected and use the answer we got for the first expression to think about the next one. So this is why we call this a string, is because as we keep adding and looking at new expressions, we see that we can use what we've already solved to help us. And so this is a really great activity for building our fluency with multiplication and division facts. It's also going to kind of reinforce or make stronger some of the strategies and concepts we've learned with multiplication and division, especially thinking about how those two operations are connected and related. So my hope today is that if I give you an expression, you'll be able to solve it, and then you'll be able to use that answer to solve 3 more connected expressions that come after. So this is the example we're going to start with. So if you thought about 2 times 2, two groups of 2, or 2 plus 2, what would you get? That's right. 2 plus 2 would be equal to 4. I'm sorry, 2 times 2. 2 times 2, 2 plus 2. It's the same thing because we're talking about two groups of 2. The next expression is 4 divided by 2. So now we're thinking about how many 2's can we make out of 4? How many groups of 2 could we make if we were dividing 4 into groups of 2? And if you thought about that last expression we solved, 2 times 2, it might have helped you think about the answer for 4 divided by 2. So that's a really short and easy example of a number string that only involves two equations that are connected. We're going to look at something that's a little bit more challenging next. So I'm going to demonstrate with a little number string, and I'm going to think through how I can use each expression I solve to solve the next one, and then I'll give you a chance to try and practice on your own. So if my first expression I'm thinking about is 2 times 5, quick reminder, multiplication, that symbol in between the 2 and the 5, means I should think about this as two groups of 5 together. Two groups of 5 together is like 5 plus 5. So I know that would be 10. And I could even use my fingers to figure that out. Next expression in the string. 5 times 2. So last expression I was thinking about was 2 times 5. This time I'm thinking about 5 times 2. Do you remember any rule or property that we learned that could help us figure that out? And it's okay if you can't remember the name of it. But if you said commutative property or the switch around factor rule, whatever you want to call it, it just means we can switch those factors around that we're multiplying. So 2 and 5, 5 and 2, but the product will be the same. So I can use the answer to 2 times 5 to figure out the answer to 5 times 2, which is also 10. You see how this is working? Okay, next expression in the string. Now I'm thinking about a division expression, 10 divided by 5. So hopefully you're starting to see a little bit of a pattern with these numbers that we're thinking about. I see I'm looking at 2 times 5 is equal to 10 here. Then we solved 5 times 2 is equal to 10. And now we're figuring out 10 divided by 5, which really just means how many 5s can I split 10 into? Can you guess? If you thought 10 divided by 5 equals 2, you are absolutely correct. And the last expression in the string is 10 divided by 2. So now, hopefully, that one's easy for us to figure out, because if you're seeing, we have a fact family that we're working with. So we still have those same three numbers, and we're just showing another way that they're connected through division. I know that if I had 10 and divided it into groups of 2, or divided it into 2 equal groups, there would be 5 in each group, or I could make 5 groups of 2. So that is the final expression, and I was able to solve that one by thinking through all the ones that came before. Now, sometimes when we do a number string, we have one final problem that is like a little bit harder, just to see if we can apply what we've learned. So now I want to think about 2 times 10, or 2 tens. And I know 2 tens is like adding 10 plus 10, repeated addition. So that would be equal to 20. So using facts we know, we can build on our understanding and our fluency and solve facts that we might not know right away. So this is a great strategy and a really great mental math exercise. And now you're going to get a chance to look at a number string with me and try to think about what you think the answers would be and how to figure them out using the answers that you got before. All right, here we go. We'll give it a try. Using an expression that you solve to solve 3 more expressions that come after it that are connected in a string. So the first expression I want you to think about is 2 times 6. And I just want you to try today. It's okay if you need to use paper and pencil, but really building fluency, part of that means we can also use some mental math. So if you feel confident enough to try solving 2 times 6 in your head, you can do that. If you feel like you need to work it out on paper, that's okay too. Give you another moment, think about what 2 times 6 will be. Are you ready? 2 times 6, 2 sixes, is equal to 12 altogether. So now that we've figured out 2 times 6, I want you to think about 3 times 6. What could you do? Instead of thinking about 2 sixes, this time we're thinking about 3 sixes. So think about how you could use that last answer to figure this one out. If you thought you could take 12 and add another 6, you are absolutely correct. And if you do that, you should get 18. Okay, are you ready for the next expression? Now we're switching to a division expression to think about. 12 divided by 6. How many sixes, how many groups of 6 could you make out of 12? Remember to look back at the problems we've already solved. Are you seeing that that first expression can help us? 12 divided by 6 equals 2. Does that sound right to you? Okay, we have one more equation to think about. And this time I want you to think about 18 divided by 6. Remember to look back at the problems we've already found answers to. Do you see an equation or an expression we solved that can help us with this one? How about when we figured out 3 times 6 was equal to 18, can that help us figure out how many groups of 6 we could make from 18? And if you said 3, give yourself a high five, give yourself a pat on the back. Way to go, math problem solvers. You just completed a number string. Take a look at those different equations we just wrote and solved and think about how they're connected. This is not one fact family. This shows us parts of 2 different fact families, but they did all involve the number 6. So I'm hoping we can think about how we could use groups of 6 or thinking about sixes to figure these out. All right, think about how you did. This is just to give you some opportunities for more practice with number strings. It's a really great activity, as I said, to really build up our multiplication and division fact fluency. And it's also kind of fun, and even to do it with somebody at home and maybe try to quiz them by giving them one expression at a time and seeing if they can find the answers and do some mental math or use some multiplication and division strategies. It's a great way to get practice together with somebody else. So you can try this string here, starts with 2 times 3, and then 3 times 3, 4 times 3, 9 divided by 3, and 12 divided by 3. And here's another string to the right, 5 times 4, and going down, solving those other equations and expressions. For a bonus review, just because we're thinking about fact families this week too, I also have over here 5 times 3 equals 15 and 3 times 5 equals 15. And then the directions say to write the two division equations that are related and that belong in that fact family. And that's just a little more review from last time. So that's for you to get a little more practice building fluency using a number string so you can do some more with your facts at home. So today we did practice with using an expression that we solve, a multiplication or division expression, to help us solve other connected and related multiplication and division expressions in a number string. This was our last week this summer exploring third grade multiplication and division strategies and concepts. And next week, we're going to move into a totally new topic, fractions, which may not be brand new to all of you, but it's also an important math skill and concept that we learn in third grade. So next week, we'll be doing some practice and problems that have to do with fractions. Because we're wrapping it up this week with multiplication and division, I wanted to leave you with some tips, some teacher tips to kind of help keep the multiplication and division muscle strong while we're going through our summer. One really quick tip: anytime you're hanging out at home, riding in the car, and you've got some free time, practicing skip counting is a really great skill and strategy that can help you when we get back to multiplication and division. So, counting by twos, counting by fives, counting by tens, and starting to practice skip counting by some of those other numbers, by groups of three, groups of four. That's a really great thing to practice anytime you have some extra time. Having somebody just quiz you and shout out facts like 5 times 2 or 4 times 6, and just trying to see how well you can learn and know and remember those answers is also a really great way to keep your muscle strong with multiplication and division. I really appreciate you joining me these last 4 weeks as we explored multiplication and division, and especially this week while we really built our fluency and got more automatic and comfortable and flexible with those strategies. I can't wait to see you next week when we dive into fractions. Thanks again for joining me as always. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Hola niños y niñas, soy yo la maestra Lorena Vázquez una vez más con ustedes y continuamos nuestro aprendizaje sobre familias de datos y división y multiplicación. Y ayer estábamos estudiando sobre cómo usar un modelo como grupos iguales para completar familias de datos. Así que el día de hoy vamos a repasar el problema que les dejé de práctica y vamos a continuar con resolver problemas de la vida real usando matemáticas y familias de datos y la relación entre la división y la multiplicación. Así que si están listos, comencemos. Bueno, entonces, la meta de ayer fue, estoy aprendiendo a identificar familias de datos de división y multiplicación. Puedo usar un modelo como grupos iguales, si recuerdan, esa era nuestra meta, grupos iguales, para completar familias de datos. Así que les dejé 2 problemas para practicar. El primero era este. Había 2 grupos de personas. En cada grupo había 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 personas. Había 5 personas en el grupo. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Y sabemos que hay 1, 2 grupos. Niños y niñas, ya tenemos aquí 2 de los números en un problema de multiplicación. Tenemos los factores, ¿verdad? Porque multiplicar son grupos iguales. Así que vamos a ver cómo averiguamos el tercer número. Podemos contar, pero este es súper fácil. 2 por 5, 2 grupos de 5, 5 más 5 son 10. Así que sabemos que 2 por 5 es igual a 10. Y así de fácil, si pueden encontrar un problema de multiplicación usando grupos iguales, así mismo van a poder encontrar todos los otros datos de esta familia. Vamos a ver cómo se ve. Aquí tenemos nuestra casita y en esta casita se encuentran los factores 2 y 5 y el producto de 10. Bueno, entonces podemos decir que 2 por 5 es igual a 10, ya lo comprobamos aquí, pero como no importa la orden de agrupación, también podemos decir que 5 por 2 es lo mismo que 10, también el producto es igual. Y hoy vamos a aprender, realmente no aprender, pero seguir solidificando nuestro conocimiento de que la relación entre división y multiplicación es la opuesta. Así que el 10 es el dividendo, el total de personas que tenemos. Y si la dividimos en 2 grupos, eso quiere decir que cada grupo tiene 5. Si las moviéramos y fueran 5 grupos, ponemos este dividendo total aquí, cuando dividemos, cada grupo tuviera 2. Niños y niñas, si les queda alguna duda, pueden hacer un dibujo de grupos iguales para cualquiera de estas operaciones y confirmar la respuesta. Vamos a ver el segundo ejemplo. Segundo ejemplo, tenemos aquí a 3 grupos. Miren, tenemos 1, 2, 3. 3 grupos. Y en cada grupo hay, ¿cuántos gatitos? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 gatitos. Quiere decir que 3 por 4, 3 grupos de 4, es igual a, bueno, ¿cómo quieren resolver este problema? Podemos hacer 4 más 4 más 4. 4 más 4 son 8 y 4 más son 12. El total es 12. Y ya, como ya saben, como tiene una familia estos 3 números, si sabemos 3 por 4 son 12, entonces también vamos a saber que, a ver, 3 por 4 son 12. Y también sabemos entonces que 4 por 3 son 12, igual el producto no cambia. Si muevo esos gatitos del lugar y no quito ningún gatito, igual quedan 12. Igual, si los divido esos 12 gatitos en 3 grupos, hay 4 en cada grupo. Y si divido todos esos 12 gatitos en 4 grupos, también quedan 3 en cada grupo. ¿Vieron, niños y niñas, cómo un problema de multiplicación de grupos iguales nos dio el conocimiento de 1, 2, 3, 4? Todas las ecuaciones de esa familia usando los mismos números. Eso es lo que ustedes pueden usar cuando estén tratando de averiguar un problema de división o de multiplicación y solo saben una parte del problema. Muy bien, vamos a continuar con la nueva meta de hoy. La meta de hoy dice, Estoy aprendiendo a identificar, ahí está esa palabra. Voy a usar identificar, quiere decir nombrar o saber cuál es. Familias de datos usando la relación inversa de división y multiplicación. Puedo usar datos de multiplicación y división para resolver problemas. Niños y niñas, inversa va a ser nuestra palabra del día de hoy. ¿Ya la han escuchado? No es una palabra nueva si han estado conmigo estudiando matemáticas estas últimas semanas, pero igual la vamos a repasar. Cuando yo diga la palabra inversa, ustedes van a decir inversa, hacer lo opuesto. Muy bien, intentémonos. Inversa, inversa, hacer lo opuesto. Muy bien. Esa es la palabra clave de hoy, así que alertas y cuando la escuchen tienen que repetirlo. Los materiales, como siempre, su pizarra, su lápiz. También si ustedes necesitan objetos para contar y agrupar, todo lo que tengan a su alcance pueden usar para resolver estos problemas. A mí me gusta mucho hacer algo visual, un dibujo, así que por eso ponemos lápiz y papel o pizarra. Tabla de multiplicación también le va a ser muy útil. Ok. Bueno, estamos aprendiendo a identificar familias de datos y resolver problemas de la vida real. Así que aquí tenemos una situación de una señorita que se llama Saraí. Vamos a ver qué pasa con Saraí. Saraí tiene 32 calcomanías para usar en su álbum de recortes. El álbum tiene 8 páginas y quiere colocar o poner la misma cantidad de calcomanías en cada página. ¿Cuántas calcomanías puede colocar Saraí en cada página? Ahora, niños, este es un problema de la vida real porque quizás no tengas muchas calcomanías o no tengas otro álbum y si se te arruina porque pegaste las calcomanías donde no van, estarás muy triste y si no hay dinero para comprar otro, ¿verdad? Así que Saraí tiene este problemita. No es un problema grave, pero vamos a resolverlo. Primero vamos a iluminar lo importante. 32 calcomanías. Ese es su total, no tiene más. Y el álbum, aquí está una foto de un dibujo de un álbum. Aquí, el álbum o el libro donde ponen las fotos tiene 8 páginas. Déjenme pensar. Esto me parece un problema de, ¿ustedes qué creen? ¿Multiplicación o división? Tengo un total de calcomanías y las necesito poner, dice, la misma cantidad. Ahí está una palabra clave. Equitativamente quiere decir la misma cantidad. Y equitativamente se hace en ambas operaciones, multiplicación y división. Si dijeron eso, tienen razón. Pero en este caso, tiene ella 32 calcomanías y tiene un libro de álbumes para poner las fotos con 8 páginas en blanco. Y ella quiere poner la misma cantidad. Niños y niñas, a mí este problema me suena un problema de, tienen razón, de división. Tenemos 32 calcomanías y queremos dividirlas equitativamente. No quiere cooperar conmigo. 32 dividido por 8 páginas es igual. ¿Qué creen? Ya tenemos parte del problema aquí. Ay, tenemos uno de los números de nuestra familia de datos. Tenemos el 8. Sabemos que hay 8 páginas, ¿verdad? Y sabemos que 32 es la cantidad total que tenemos de calcomanías. Así que vamos a hacer lo siguiente. 32 es mi total. 32, muy bien. Entonces tenemos 32. ¿Cuál es el otro número de esta familia? Es lo que tenemos que averiguar. Entonces, yo puedo ver este problema de una manera. 8, aquí no tengo un total. Yo puedo decir 8 por alguna cantidad me da 32. 8 por 1 son 8. 8 por 2, 16. So, si tengo 16, 16 y 16 son 32. Niños, ¿podrá ser 4? Como no estoy segura, vamos a hacer lo siguiente. Vamos a hacer un modelo para ayudarnos con nuestra familia de datos. Estoy tratando de usar grupos iguales de multiplicación porque la multiplicación y la división son relaciones inversas. Muy bien, quiere decir que se puede hacer lo opuesto. En vez de repartir, podemos hacer grupos iguales de a 8, ¿verdad? Yo puedo bajar este aquí y decir, bueno, hay 8 grupos de algo y mi total tiene que llegar a 32. Así que, ¿qué creen? Voy a tomar mis 8 grupos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 y vamos poniéndole a grupos iguales. A ver si llegamos al total. ¿Listos? 1, voy a empezar con 2. 2. Este grupo tiene 2, este grupo tiene 2, este tiene 2, este tiene 2, este tiene 2, este y este. Tengo 32, vamos a ver. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Tengo 16. Necesito más para llegar a 32. ¿Qué tal si yo duplico y agrego otros 2? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Muy bien. Ahora, acabo de agregar otros 2, quiere decir que acabo de agregar otros 16. Así que sí, podemos hacer lo siguiente. Puedo hacer adición repetida. Puedo hacer 16 de la primera vez más otros 16 de la segunda vez. Y yo sé que 6 más 6 son 12. Entonces puedo acá cargar el 10 que me sobra y ponerlo en las decenas y llego a 32. Niños y niñas, el número que nos faltaba, la cantidad en cada grupo que es igual es el 4. El 4. Así que vieron cómo pude usar la relación inversa. Muy bien, de multiplicación y división, hacer lo opuesto, empezar haciendo grupos iguales, que realmente es dividir equitativamente, es lo mismo, por eso están relacionadas, todos son parientes en esta misma familia, y pude resolver el problema, porque miren, si yo sé que 8 por 4 son 32, porque lo pude resolver, y yo sé que 4 por 8 también son 32, porque ya aprendimos que la multiplicación no tiene orden en específico. Podemos hacer la agrupación como queramos. Entonces también sé que 32 dividido por 4 son 8 y 32 dividido por 8, que era nuestro problema, aquí lo tenemos, dividido por 8, aquí está, la respuesta es 4. ¿No? 4. Así que, niños y niñas, acabamos de usar no solo un modelo de grupos iguales, división equitativa, sino que también usamos la familia de datos para poder resolver nuestro problema. ¿Cuántas calcomanías necesita Saraí en cada página? Saraí necesita 4 calcomanías en cada página para poder llenar su álbum. Excelente trabajo. Ahora ya saben que la relación inversa, hacer lo opuesto. De la multiplicación y la división quiere decir hacer lo opuesto y nos ayuda para encontrar las familias de datos y resolver problemas verdaderos. Bueno, entonces aquí está un problema que quiero que ustedes intenten y practiquen. Y la próxima semana lo vamos a resolver juntos. Vamos a ver qué dice. Dice, la maestra Dinamarca necesita 30 jugos para su clase. Los jugos vienen en paquetes de 6. Quiere decir paquetes de 6. ¿Cuántos paquetes necesita? Resuelve. Ahora, ¿qué información tenemos? Tenemos un total. Ella necesita un total de 30 jugos. Así que sabemos uno de los números, 30. ¿Qué más sabemos? Que los paquetes tienen 6 juguitos cada uno. Entonces, también sabemos ese número. 6. 6 juguitos en cada paquete. Lo que no sabemos es cuántos paquetes hay. Así que ese es su trabajo de ustedes resolverlo. Tenemos una cantidad de paquetes por 6 igual a 30. O, como es una relación inversa, podemos decir que tenemos 30 juguitos que necesitamos dividir en alguna cantidad que no conocemos y vamos a tener 6 en cada paquete. Así que ese es su trabajo. Practiquen y pueden pensar en un problema ustedes mismos. Niños y niñas, hemos llegado al final de nuestra lección. Recuerden, la multiplicación y la división tienen una relación inversa. Inversa. Hacer lo opuesto. Casi olvidábamos. Así que quiere decir que podemos usarla una y otra para resolver problemas de la vida real. La próxima semana, fracciones. No se asusten, es algo muy divertido. Muchas gracias por acompañarme. Cuídense mucho y hasta luego. Adiós.